Carly Simon is our guest, and Carly Simon's new album is called Into White. You have a kind of a reputation for a little bit of stage fright, but I guess that's gone away after all these years. Are you doing any live appearances on television?
Well, I was just going to say that stage fright is very misunderstood. It's and I won't go into the whole psychology of it, but it's a certain form of anxiety disorder that can manifest itself on the stage or in the grocery store or on the highway or on a bridge or at a certain height, or there are lots of different things which can be claustrophobia but are really look like stage fright but are really claustrophobia, a fear of being caught in the lights. And I've spent a lifetime trying to figure out exactly what it was, and I am doing more in front of audience appearances than I probably have ever done. I don't know exactly to what extent the tour for this album is going to look like, but there will be some more shows, if you want to call them that.
Carly, you make a special note inside your new album that the people that you're playing with, this really is, I think the way you worded it, really is a band album, even though it's a solo album at the same time.
Yes, well, it began to be an album with really only three people playing, really only two people, just T. Skoll, who I've been working with for a long time, and Peter Kalo, who I've been working with for a long time. Tees is a pianist and a keyboard player and arranger, and Peter is a stringed instrument player, or a guitarist and a mandolin player, and everybody plays the kalimba, and everybody sings, and everybody, including Jimmy Parr, who is the engineer and also fills in wherever he is needed, whether on kalimba or stand-up bass. And we all we're happy to be so few of us, because especially if you don't have a real drummer on a drum kit, a la Andy Newmark, you don't have to wait for anybody to come out of the bathroom or to come in from having made a telephone call upstairs, where you're just waiting to start the song again because the bass player or the drummer is out of the room. So the fewer musicians you start off an album with, the better, which isn't to say that other musicians, specifically my two children, Sally and Ben Taylor, and David Saw, who is Ben's collaborator and now my collaborator, and our dear family friend who's kind of living with, or happily living with us and making an album of his own, came to sort of join us in the second half of the album, and David playing guitar and singing, and Ben playing guitar and singing. And Sally didn't come in from Boulder. She moved back from Boulder to Martha's Vineyard sort of toward the end of it, and she and Ben and I sang "You Can Close Your Eyes," which is one of James Taylor's greatest songs,
sure,
one of the most singable songs, and she and Ben and I sang it to a very different kind of an arrangement. And so it became a little bit more of a larger team effort toward the end of the making of the album. And we recorded two of David Saw's songs, one of which David and Ben collaborated on, which occurred at the very end of the making of the album when I heard them singing it one morning. It's called I Still Remember You. And the whole album was finished, but when I heard them singing that song, which they had just written the day before, and I said, I must have that. I have to put that song on this album. It's so perfect. And so I stopped the wheels and spent a day in the studio and recorded that song, and we added that song on as a postscript, a very important postscript, because it's one of my favorite songs on the album. My other favorite being David's song, which is called Quiet Evening, which was also written. I mean, I heard it during the making of this album. So those are the two original songs on the album. All the others have been heard before. Have been even the Song of Mine, which I chose to put on the album, which is You Are the Love of My Life, which is a song that I wrote about Sally and Ben when they were very, very little children, and I wrote when they went to sleep one night, and I wrote that song. And so that's the only original of mine that's on the album. A few of the words have been changed to protect the innocent,
Carly Simon,
or to make new innocence out of out of formerly accused.
Carly, do you ever? I often ask this of artists. Do you ever, when you're doing a sound check, not necessarily with songs that are as precious as these, but do you ever sort of play around with some of your old songs just for the guys in the band, or is it a total seriousness during a sound check session?
During the tour that I did last winter, primarily for the Moonlight Serenade album that I put out of Standards a year ago, that Richard Perry produced, we tried a lot of new versions of my older songs. We did a completely different version of Legend in Your Own Time, which was I can't even describe it. It was so different. If you didn't know the song really well or know the words, you would never ever have picked up on the fact that it was the same song. But during sound check, yes, we do go through dulcimer versions of You're So Vain. And
but that's great.
It really is fun, and that's one of the things that I would love to do. That I think that other artists, and I'm thinking of Joni Mitchell right now, has done so well as to put out new versions of her older material. In the case of Joni, she put out a wonderful orchestral album of some of her old folk classics, or her older folk classics, and I think there's a desire to do that. There's a desire not to get into a rut with a song, and of course the audience, an audience that comes to hear you in concert, wants to hear it exactly the way it is on the record, and if they don't, they get sort of frustrated. So you have to lead them in slowly by the hand and say, it's okay, you're going to be okay. There will be an intermission where you can go out and cry on each other's shoulders. But for now, we're going to try this new version of Legend in Your Own Time.
Carly Simon's our guest. Carly, the new project is once again entitled Into White, and that is a Cat Stevens song. And it continues a total of 14 songs. And it's out right now. We'll stick a link on our website. So you can grab it either at Amazon or wherever.
And if you go to Barnes & Noble, there is an extra song.
Oh, is there really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that. Carly, did you by chance watch the Grammys last night?
No.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, good decision.
Yeah.
Quickly, I'll tell you this. Stevie Wonder was up on stage with Tony Bennett, one of the first awards, and Stevie was very emotional, said something about his late mother, and then Tony Bennett kind of grabbed the mic and said he wanted to thank Target.
For sponsoring his show.
Which is fine, except in that context.
Oh, dear.
Didn't hit well.
There were a couple of scattered boos. It was a little less than wonderful.
Hey, Carly.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know. It was really sad.
Target doesn't even deserve that.
No.
But poor. That's so touching about Stevie Wonder. My gosh.
Mm-hmm. And then later on, Stevie got up there, and it was pretty cool. He sort of sang a little intro, but that was there weren't a lot of highlights, but that was one of them. Bob has one more question.
Do you remember the first record you ever bought, Carly?
Let's see. The first record I ever bought. It probably was, I'm guessing, but it was probably Lambert's, Hendrix, and Ross. Oh, dear.
Uh-oh.
That's my cell phone. I have to.
Oh, it is? Okay. I thought it
probably,
might be Lambert.
I think, or else it's the Martians that usually come at around this time.
All right.
Well,
we'll let you go, Carly.
Okay,
Thanks
Carly.
for calling.
No, you don't have to. Just because the cell phone rings, that doesn't mean I want to leave you. Just in case you want to ask me anything else. And if they're aliens, it's usually a good thing.
Do you have some odd ringtone, or was that just okay?
No. It interferes with this landline.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I'm in my New York apartment, which I don't frequent very often, and there are various things that don't work, and one of them is the landline.
Carly Simon, again, the new album is called Into White, and thanks for all the great songs over all the years. I did want to ask you, lastly, because you mentioned that this collection is kind of deliberately different, and you talk about the quietude and that sort of thing. Do you ever watch any music on television, things like American Idol? Because I often see those shows and I say, a lot of the major artists we had today would never have done well on a show like that because it doesn't emphasize original music and they all sound the same, all that warbling.
the warbling, the melismatic music of American Idol. Well, you know what? Just as The Martians entered, I was going to tell you the first album that I ever bought, but you probably didn't hear it, which was an album called The Hottest Group in Jazz, and it was a Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross album. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but speaking of they were scat singers, and maybe the melismatic warbling is a continuation of scat. I mean, since the scat singing really came from saxophone solos or horn solos, which then they added words to, as did John Hendricks and Annie Ross and Dave Lambert and a lot of other jazz singers. I'm going to tell you about them. They copied. See how well I did that? They copied the horn solos, and so there is something similar about it. But anyway, I used to love jazz as much as I loved folk and show music and classical music, and then the pop music of the 50s. So I was a I love music in its many forms, and I'm just getting into country music now.
Oh, well,
shame on me.
Well, that's all right.
Actually, there was I sound like I watch TV constantly. There was a beautiful piece last evening on 60 Minutes about Nora Jones,
yeah.
And she, who appears to be a great person, and has managed to survive the huge wave of popularity relatively intact. But she was talking about how much she's really a Texan, and that she's really into country music and saying a bunch of cool country stuff. Well, Carly, we got to run. Thanks so much for your time.
Well,
and best of luck
so
with the
much for
project.
having me. Thank you so much, and have a terrific day, and happy all the holidays that are inevitably coming up.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day it is.
There it is, and this. I think this album might be a really nice
Sure.
Valentine to somebody.
Oh, good point.
Indeed, a good Valentine indeed. Carly Simon, Into White is the new project. Thanks, Carly.
Nice to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
So long.
Bye.